Shanti's story, A Tale of Love and Magic, is the story of one very, very lucky dog that found a fabulous new home here in Byron Shire after growing up starving on the streets of Bhutan. She was lucky enough to catch the eye of Byron Bay local Cathy Blasonato, who is over there running yoga classes in Bhutan. We're going to talk to Cathy Blasonato and Dean Rawlings and find out just how they managed to get one small dog out of Bhutan and into Australia. Well, good morning, Cathy, and welcome to Arts Canvas.
Good morning, Karina. Thanks for having us on.
Well, you and Dean are going to tell us all about your book, Shanti, which I'm going to sort of jump right in and tell the listeners is actually not about a person called Shanti, it's about a dog called Shanti,
That's
isn't it?
right, it is.
Now, Shanti is not an ordinary dog. Shanti is actually a street dog that you adopted from Bhutan. And street dogs are different from ordinary dogs, aren't they?
That's right. They're actually very different. They grow up on the street. They're not used to humans, so they can be quite afraid. Some can be a little bit on the wild side. Obviously they get shooed away a lot, especially from hotel areas, which is where we picked up Shanti. Some have rabies. They're nothing like the dogs that, we would have here in Australia, that's for sure.
Which makes them a bit of a scary proposition to take on, I should think. A lot of people are wary about even adopting stray dogs in Australia, but adopting one in Bhutan is pretty incredible. What made you do this?
Well, I think it was actually Shanti. The way that she reacted to me was not the way that a normal street dog in Asia would react to you. She seemed very calm. And she had a different vibe about her. So I suspect that she did have some interaction with humans before I came along. And so she seemed very timid. And when I actually picked her up, because she was all curled up on the concrete, and funnily enough, she just totally relaxed in my arms. So, she didn't act at all like a normal street dog would.
So now you're over in Bhutan. We should say what you were actually doing there.
Well, I actually used to organise yoga retreats, and we would travel to exotic places to do yoga, and we decided to go to Bhutan. It had always been on the bucket list. So we went there with a group of yogis from Byron, and also we had a few Europeans with us as well, and we did like a 10-day trip through Bhutan. We were travelling all over in a bus, so it was at one of those places that we actually came across Shanti.
And as you say, in Bhutan there are a lot of street dogs. Do people actually have a custom of owning dogs personally in Bhutan, or is it just that the dogs roam around in the streets and people throw them the odd scrap?
Well, both actually, but the ones that are owned tend to be the white fluffy variety that are just, a type of breed of dog. So they're very domesticated. So the street dogs are a little bit different. They don't tend to live in houses. However, funnily enough, the King of Bhutan, who's a very nice man, when it was his birthday a few months ago, he actually said to people, "Don't send me any gifts. I want you all to instead go out and adopt a street dog," which I thought was amazing. Perhaps he didn't mean like literally take them into your home. I think it was more like, feed a street dog, make sure that, they're okay, give them a little bit of shelter outside. So, his interpretation of that might be a little bit different to what we would do.
Well, you adopted Shanti, which caused all kinds of problems because you were actually overseas, and then you decided you wanted to bring him back to Australia. And the book is largely devoted to what an enormous undertaking that actually was. It's kind of like a handbook for how to bring a dog from a foreign country, isn't it?
That's right. Well, when I was writing the book, I was very conscious of that. A lot of people actually contacted me to ask me and get my advice on that. So I decided that what I would do is actually talk about that in the book, and the actual, you have to jump through hoops, obviously, to do this. And I just wanted to make some people aware and use it as a little bit of a guide to what it entails to actually pick up a dog from one of those countries.
Well, let's have a look at the book, because the interesting thing about the book is there's 3 voices in the book. There's yours, and there's Shanti, and there's Dean Rawlings as well, who's also there with you. So hello, Dean.
Hello.
And Dean also had a great deal to do with bringing up Shanti and taking care of Shanti as well. How did this come about that the two of you ended up sharing responsibility for one dog?
Well, I was living in Bhutan on a 2-year contract, and Cathy had to leave Bhutan, which would have meant leaving Shanti on the streets again. So through Lance, who was the yoga teacher, we managed to connect up, and Cathy phoned me and asked if I would look after Shanti.
At that stage, she didn't even know you that very well either, did she? It was a big ask.
We'd said hello, and that was about it. But I've always had dogs myself. I had to give up a dog when I took on the contract in Bhutan, which was very sad. So I always knew that I would help out, and of course it progressed from there.
Now, Cathy, when you brought Shanti into your life, she was in a pretty pathetic state, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was in a terrible state. In fact, some of the people that were with us on the trip said that, they believed that Shanti would not have survived had we not picked her up that day. She was covered in big wounds where, she had scratched herself through mites and fleas. She was very, very thin. She hardly had any fur on her. And she had weepy eyes. And, she was in a pretty terrible state, actually. And I do believe that, she would have had a very hard time, or she would have had a very short life, put it that way.
Well, she doesn't sound like she was a very attractive prospect, so I'm wondering why you were so drawn towards her.
Well, look, the fact that she was in a bad state is why I felt I needed to do something. At the very least, I thought if I took her in and gave her a bath and gave her a feed, that would have been, sufficient. That would have been really all that I could have done under the circumstances. But I think she had other ideas.
Well, in the book, you tell your part of the story, and Dean also picks up his part of the story and how he cared for Shanti and how he felt about the situation. But you also imagine the voice of Shanti, which I found was rather refreshingly unsentimental. You seem to have a very clear idea of how a dog would view these things.
Well, that's funny you should say that, because when I was actually writing, Shanti's part came to me much easier than, say, my part did for some reason. She always sat in the office with me when I was writing, and, for some reason, I found it very easy to write on her behalf.
Well, the book also has lots of lovely photographs, so we can see before and after photographs of Shanti, and she looks nothing like what she did look like when you picked her up off the street. And she's actually a particular breed, isn't she?
Yes. She's a Tibetan Spaniel. She's not 100% Tibetan Spaniel, because what's happened is the Tibetan Spaniels came into Bhutan from Tibet with the monks. So they did change a little bit. Once they were in Bhutan and they started breeding with the local breeds, they changed their appearance a little bit. And in Bhutan, they call them Damchi. That's the breed. So she's what we refer to as a Damchi, but she is pretty much a Tibetan Spaniel.
Well, today she's a very healthy little local Byron Shire dog, isn't she?
She is. She's very healthy and very smart.
So, look, is there any possibility that other people might bring dogs in from areas like Southeast Asia at all? I know it's a very complicated process because the quarantine laws here are very, very strict, but there might be people out there thinking they could adopt a dog and bring it into the country.
Yes, look, it is a very lengthy process, although now they have changed the laws a little bit in that you only have to do quarantine for 10 days. When we did it with Shanti, it was a month, and this is after she had already done a 6-month residency in Singapore. But look, I do know of people that have brought dogs in. There's actually some friends that also brought in a few dogs from places like India and also Bhutan after Shanti came. So, it is possible, but you still have to do a 6-month residency in a Category 2 country, which would be somewhere like Hong Kong or Singapore or Japan or the US. So it's not an easy process, So what I would advise is that if you find a dog in Asia, then you really look up, a local shelter there and try to find it a home that way. We couldn't do that with Shanti because there were no shelters in Bhutan. I mean, they don't even have, vets in Bhutan, actually. If you need to go to a vet, you have to go to, like, a government department that deals in livestock.
Right. Well, look, it's all in the book Shanti, which is available in bookstores, I hope, Cathy?
Yeah, it's actually, right now it's available at the Bangalore News Agency and also on Amazon. And we do hope to get it in other bookstores as soon as they open again, because a lot of them are closed at the moment, unfortunately.
Well, it's called Shanti's Story, A Tale of Love and Magic, and there was quite a bit of magic, I think, involved in getting this one small dog all this way back to Byron Shire. And we've been talking to Cathy Blasonato and Dean Rawlings. And the rest of you can get this book locally. And as I said, lots of great little colour pictures as well. And it's just a really lovely story. I particularly recommend it for people who love dogs. And thanks for talking to us this morning, Cathy and Dean.
Thank you very much, Karina.